You walk into a grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special, just the usual run. Eggs, bread, milk, chicken. You have done this 100 times. But when the total hits the screen, your stomach drops. Eggs alone cost what a full dinner used to. Bread has quietly doubled, and the chicken, you are practically financing it. This is not a special occasion shop. This is Tuesday. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation has been around 3% annually, slowly trending down to about 2.5% today. But it doesn't really feel like that, does it? If you think about everything you purchase in a given week, you would be hard-pressed to name something that is only 10% more expensive than 3 years ago. And no, Arizona iced tea does not count. So we're taught in Economics 101 that we measure inflation by gathering up a basket of goods and services, labeling that the Consumer Price Index, and tracking the weighted cost of that basket over time. In most months, some things will get more expensive and others will get a little bit cheaper. But over time, on average, the basket as a whole will slowly get more expensive. And by the numbers, that is exactly what has been happening. Over the last 25 years, essentials like healthcare, housing, and education have dramatically outpaced inflation, but the statistical average has been pulled back down by cheaper non-essentials, cheaper cell phones, cheaper software, cheaper televisions. As trade deals go, getting cheap TVs in exchange for unaffordable healthcare, it was not great. But today we're not even getting the cheap tech stuff to offset things anymore. Computer hardware has basically become a strategic investment. PlayStations that are almost 6 years old just got a $150 price hike only 5 months after getting a previous $100 price bump. The average new car is rolling off the lot at close to $50,000. Software has become an ongoing, very expensive subscription. Fast food that used to be cheap, quick convenience has become a very expensive treat. Your energy bills are now competing with multi-billion-dollar AI data centers for the same electricity. Tariff discussions mean even generic consumer products could soon become coveted collectibles. So is there actually anything left that is quietly offsetting these statistics and bringing the average back in check? Or is this just another case of lying with statistics? These are important questions. You are not crazy to be skeptical about inflation figures suggesting things get more expensive at only low single-digit rates. However, it is probably not because the government is secretly manipulating the data. If that was actually happening, there are so many economists, academics, and journalists looking at this data every single month, they would be called out on it immediately. Never attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by stupidity. There are 3 major problems with how we process inflation data that is probably giving us completely the wrong idea about what we actually pay for everything. Problem number 1, it's incredibly difficult to control for quality in the official inflation rate, and maybe not in the way you might expect. The surprising blind spot is actually things getting better. Something like a new iPhone performs the basic function of the original from almost 20 years ago, but the maximum capabilities of the modern offering are hundreds of times greater than what Steve Jobs walked onto stage with. To the statisticians crunching the numbers, this presents a problem. If prices remain more or less the same over the years, you're technically getting more phone for less money. If prices rise but capabilities rise much faster, the consumer can maintain purchasing power by buying a lower-end device. The Bureau of Labor Statistics actually lays out their exact methodology on their website for how they deal with these changes in every product category. In plain English, this is exactly what they do. If a phone gets more expensive but it comes with a higher pixel count and better processor, it will be adjusted downward in price to compensate for the improvement in quality. And this lower adjusted price is what gets counted in the basket, even though it is not actually what you would pay. The same kind of adjustments are done for televisions. A 65-inch flat screen has become consumer norm today, but just 20 years ago, it would have been an extremely high-end commercial appliance. There's nothing inherently unfair about these adjustments, but for a lot of people, it can stretch their budget, even if they're not really getting any true benefits from the improvements. I personally use my phone to message my 3 friends and doom scroll the Financial Times. All of this could be done by a 15-year-old phone without problems. In theory, I know a lot of you have a similar use case. but a lot of us would love to use an old phone if it were actually possible. Part of the reason people can't get away with old hardware is that repairability is terrible and software updates routinely render older devices borderline unusable. Now it's time to look at the bigger ticket items and the main reason the average stays lower than it feels. The biggest category in the entire CPI basket is housing, but it gets put in there in a really unintuitive way. The problem with housing is that it's both an essential consumer good and a speculative investment asset. When the BLS constructs the CPI, they want to separate out the speculative asset part and focus only on pure consumption. House prices are not measured directly in the basket like the price of a can of beans. Instead, the BLS surveys homeowners to establish what they think they could rent their home for, something they call owner's equivalent rent. The first problem with this rental measurement: rental agreements last for a very long time, which means this data can lag behind the reality of the true housing market by anywhere from 6 to 12 months. The second problem: rent is not consistent between properties. Some rental agreements include utilities, maintenance, and services. Others are completely bare, making direct comparison across properties almost impossible for statisticians. The third problem, and the biggest, is that for people who own homes or dream of owning one, this measurement ignores maintenance, property taxes, HOA fees, improvements, insurance, and most importantly, mortgage interest rates. Mortgage interest rates varied enormously from 2.65% in 2021 to nearly 8% in 2023. Someone who bought in 2021 has a completely different monthly cost than someone who bought in 2023. Neither cost is captured accurately by the CPI. The BLS does acknowledge all of this in their reporting methodology, but nobody is actually reading that. And even if they were, it does not make your money stretch any further at the end of the month when the bills are piling up. Now, the final big reason everything feels more expensive, and this one is straightforward: a lot of goods and services are just getting worse. Companies offer the same product at the same price year to year, but skimp on quality, materials, and ingredients to save costs. This has been called shrinkflation, where the package stays the same but the amount inside quietly decreases. A bag of chips that used to be 14 ounces is now 11 ounces. Same bag, same shelf, same price, less chips. And the companies can technically claim prices have stayed the same because the sticker price did not change. The volume went down, the price per ounce went up, but the headline number on the tag is identical. The gradual decline in quality across the board of consumer goods has been widely recognized, but one aspect that is slightly different and just as sinister is the number of hoops you now need to jump through to even access reasonable prices. For everyday purchases like groceries, insurance, and travel services, dynamic pricing has become the norm. Companies build a profile on you and your shopping habits and individually set prices to extract the highest possible amount from each person. A busy professional rushing to buy groceries on the way home from work will pay more for the same basket compared to a retiree shopping in the middle of the day. Dynamic pricing, despite being hilariously amoral, also makes it almost impossible to calculate the true average consumer price. If you want a decent deal at a fast food restaurant, you need to download the app, check daily rewards, navigate bundle offers, and find the best combination. If you do all of this, you might spend half as much as someone who just walked up and ordered. The statistical strain of keeping up with expensive technology that has become essential, the strange way housing is counted, and corporate cost-cutting combined have all helped to make it feel like everything is outpacing inflation simultaneously. Now, those are the statistical nuances, but even with all of that, this is still a weighted average. So for completeness, let us look at what categories have actually been falling below the overall inflation rate. The good news is that one key category has been falling, and it has a very tangible knock-on effect throughout the entire economy. The bad news: that category is gasoline and other fuels. And I can't imagine that the latest consumer price index is calculated, fuel prices are going to maintain their downward trend. With oil prices heading the way they are, none of this is likely to get better anytime soon. Energy bills are making everyday life genuinely unaffordable. Food prices are expected to rise another 3% in 2026. Some fast food items now cost more than a sit-down restaurant meal used to. Car manufacturers are adding subscriptions to features that used to be standard. Heated seats requiring a monthly subscription, remote start locked behind a payment plan, features that are physically installed in your car requiring ongoing payment to access. This is an extreme amount of difference from how things worked 10 years ago, and it represents a fundamental shift from paying once for something to paying forever for the same thing you already bought. So the simple answer to the original question is no, you are not crazy. The official inflation figure has real and significant blind spots, and those blind spots happen to cover most of what actually hurts your wallet every month. Now let's talk about what this actually means for your personal finances, because understanding the gap between official inflation and your real cost of living has direct implications for the decisions you make every single day. When you ask for a pay raise, you typically ask for inflation plus some extra for performance. But if the real increase in your cost of living is 6 or 7%, while the official inflation rate says 2.5%, you might be negotiating yourself short by 4 percentage points every year. If you do this every year for 10 years, you're behind by the equivalent of multiple months of salary compared to where you would have been if you had negotiated against your real cost of living rather than the headline number. Your saving strategy is also affected. You might be keeping money in a savings account earning 2% interest, telling yourself you're beating inflation at 2.5%. But if your real cost of living is rising at 5 or 6%, your savings are losing purchasing power every single month. This is why financial advisors stress the importance of investing rather than just saving. An index fund returning 8 to 10% annually gives you a much better chance of maintaining real purchasing power than a savings account even after accounting for market volatility.
The gap between what the official statistics say and what your actual experience tells you is real, and it matters. Because when you make financial decisions based on the official number, you may be systematically underestimating what you need. So, what should you actually do about this? The first thing is simply awareness. Know that the official number likely understates your personal inflation rate, especially if you are renting, commuting, or paying for healthcare out of pocket. The second thing is to track your own personal inflation rate, not the government's basket, your basket. What do you actually spend money on every month? How much have those specific things increased over the past 2 or 3 years? The third practical step, negotiate everything. Your salary, your rent, your insurance premiums, your subscriptions. In an environment where your real costs are rising faster than the official inflation rate, every negotiated dollar matters more than you think. The fourth step, invest the gap. If your costs are rising faster than your savings account can compensate, the answer is not to save more in the savings account. The answer is to put that money somewhere that actually beats the real rate of cost increase. The fifth and final step, do not anchor your expectations to the official 2.5% figure. If you are planning a major purchase, a career move, or a retirement timeline, use your own personal cost data, not the government's. Now, a brief moment for something important. Most people have no idea how much of their personal information is already out there. Hundreds of data brokers are collecting and selling your data right now, and they do not need your permission to do it. So let us put everything together. The math is not mathing, and now you know exactly why. Technology quality adjustments pull the number down. Housing measurement methodology lags and excludes real costs. Product quality decline means you get less for the same price. And dynamic pricing means two people can pay completely different amounts for exactly the same product at exactly the same time, making it essentially impossible to measure a single average consumer price. The bottom line, for most of you watching, especially younger early career professionals, your true cost of living is almost certainly rising faster than the headline 2.5% figure. And if you build your financial life around the wrong number, you will make systematically wrong decisions. We have asked for pay raises to keep up with inflation, we ensure savings earn interest, we accept business price increases because companies need to keep up with inflation. But if the baseline number is understated, all of these decisions rest on a slightly flawed foundation. So go back and run your real numbers. What did you spend on rent, food, energy, insurance, and transport 2 years ago versus today? Calculate your own personal inflation rate. I guarantee it will be higher than 2.5%. Because here is what I have learned in 30 years of watching people make financial decisions. The people who get ahead are not necessarily the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who understand the real numbers, their real numbers, and make decisions accordingly. The official inflation number is a useful tool, but it's a blunt instrument. It was designed to measure the average across hundreds of millions of people. It was not designed to measure your life. Your job is to measure your life. And if you found this video useful, if it helped explain why everything feels more expensive despite what the official numbers say, the single best thing you can do is share it with someone who also feels like their money is not going as far as it should. And subscribe to Golden Endings for new videos every week. My name is Adam, MBA, 30 years of real financial experience, and every week we take the economic and financial realities that affect your money and explain them in plain, honest language. Drop a comment below telling me what feels most expensive to you right now. What category in your personal life has increased the most over the past 2 or 3 years? I read every single comment and I respond to as many as I can. Because understanding why everything feels more expensive is not just interesting economics, it's the foundation of every smart financial decision you will make from here forward. And your golden ending starts with knowing the real numbers.
And please stay connected to Golden Endings, where we bring you practical, useful, and real-world money insights to help you make smarter financial decisions. Until next time, see you next week.